This is David Goldie, the World Wrestling Grand Prix Champion, and you're listening to the Alliance Guys podcast. Hey everybody, this is ECW Original Referee Jim Molyneux, and you're listening to the Alliance Guys podcast.
The Alliance blog, the Alliance blog, the Alliance blog, the Alliance blog. Alliance? If you put an S in front of Alliance, you have Alliance. That's me. Building an alliance.
Will you join us?
It's showtime.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are tonight's entertainment.
You're not here, you're missing out, because this show...
Ladies and gentlemen.
All right, listen up.
And now, the moment you've all been waiting for.
It's time for the Alliance Guys podcast.
I'm building an alliance.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Alliance Guys podcast, a presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com, your number one source for news and information for the National Wrestling Alliance. My name is Jay Cal, and with me, of course, is DKN and Jaden. Welcome to the Alliance Guys podcast. Gentlemen, how are you?
I guess I'm okay.
Uh-oh. That doesn't sound good.
I timed it just perfectly, though. I just got in just enough time to get into the introduction.
You missed the Jim Molyneux intro. Also, Goldie was part of the intro as well.
Jim Molyneux.
What I said, Molyneux?
No, you completely. Whatever you said, wasn't it? You went Kevin Owens. He sounded very French Canadian when he said it.
I've been working on my accent.
Keep
my
working.
My wife says I sound Native American when I do my accent, and I think that might be racist.
Well, assigning any nationality or anything is racist. It's not that actual thing that they embrace and love.
Luther says he hopes that tonight will be skit-free.
You're not the only one, Lou.
I don't promise anything. I might break into some song and dance later in the show. It just depends on how quickly that edible hits.
Hey, Jay.
Yeah.
I say one day we should do a show based on where we ask questions, or we let them ask questions. Let our fans out there ask questions. All two of them.
That's a great idea for you guys to do on April 5th when I'm not here.
You got to be a part of it because we have to give our answers in the form of a Broadway show tune.
Oh, shit. You do not want that!
Exactly.
The Alliance Guys, the musical.
Oh, my
exactly.
God.
See, Jaden gets it.
None of us should get it.
I'm getting chocolate. Quick, Jay, what's your favorite candy bar?
Okay, so it comes down to the Reese's family. If you've had the Reese's stick, such a game changer. But the Nutrageous is also good, and the Fast Break, all by Reese's. But you can't go wrong with like an Easter time or a Halloween Easter egg or the jack-o'-lantern. All good things.
Awesome. What's yours? Come on, Jaden.
If you count Reese's Cups, I'm going to go Reese's Cups. But if you don't, then I'm going to go to Reese's Bar, which is really, really good too. And old school caramellos that I just don't see anymore.
Ooh. Caramels get stuck in my teeth. That's the drawback to that. Tastes great, but then I'm like picking out.
I think you're thinking the caramels. No, the caramello is the chocolate with the caramel inside.
Yeah.
What's the little round one? That's what I was thinking of.
Rolo.
Caramel creams.
Rolos. No.
Oh, yeah. The Rolos. Oh, they're good too.
I like Rolos.
I do too. I usually get them on cookies, as weird as it sounds. For some reason, there's a lot of cookies that come with a Rolo on them.
Now that you say that, that's true. That always somebody from the office would bring like a thumbprint cookie, but it was a Rolo with some kind of little cookie thing around it.
What is a thumbprint cookie, and why haven't I been introduced to a thumbprint cookie?
It's a real small drop of cookie. You sometimes either peanut butter or sugar cookie, and it's like a real small one. And usually the thumbprint is because you put a little thumb in the hole in the center, and then you put when you bake it, you put a Rolo or something inside of that, or a Reese's peanut butter cup.
Or an icing, like some will fill it with like an icing.
Yeah, that too.
I know what that is. I just never heard it called that before.
They're real
Even
common.
straight chocolate. Can I DK? Sorry.
Oh, I said they're all common at Christmas.
Yeah, that makes sense. I've had those before. This is the Alliance, guys. Willie said, "Hi, Tyrus." No, he's not gonna be here tonight. I promise. Or do I?
Maybe he got hand confused with a Rolo with a roly poly.
Maybe. Hi, guys. Tyrus just published a book. It's titled "Why I Enjoy Clogging Up Toilets."
I don't enjoy clogging up toilets. I'm just very good at it.
I've never enjoyed it, right? I've never enjoyed it.
Especially have to clean it up. Nope.
It's a lot of shame associated with clogging a toilet. You ever do the walk of shame? You're like, oh, someone get me the plunger.
No, because the plunger's right next to our toilet.
That's smart.
Won't even bother putting it away into like a special cabinet or nothing. It's right at access.
Willie says Three Musketeers, Snickers, Nestle Crunch Bar, Chocolate Payday. I haven't had that Chocolate Payday yet. I don't know what Lightens milk chocolate are his favorites. What is a Lighten? I've never heard of that.
Oh, they're good.
Really? I haven't heard of it either. I want to try that now.
For milk chocolate. I mean, milk chocolate's not my favorite, but yeah, I enjoyed them.
That Chocolate Payday, I've heard of them. I have not had it, but I have
not either.
Paydays are like up there with. I also like Baby Ruths a lot, and Paydays and Snickers. Ooh. Two more I would add onto my secondary list is the Snickers pecan. Game changer. And then I had another one, and it's supposed to be like butter pecan ice cream. It's a Snickers bar, but it's like it has a weird name, and that was also really good. But it kind of tasted like butter pecan ice cream, if you like that.
I've heard of that. Oddly, my favorite is the whatchamacallit.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Whatchamacallit?
Well, regular size. The king size are a little bit big, but the regular size one. And here's the weird reason why it became one of my favorites, if not my absolute favorite, is I started eating those about the same time that I had read Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Okay.
And somehow it always struck me as the type of candy bar that Wonka would have made. I go, this is, with the weird name and, chocolate covering something or whatever. And so I decided as a young kid that I like these candy bars. And, 50-some years later, I still do.
Have you had the I think it's called Thingamajig? It's like the same concept of a whatchamacallit,
Yes.
but it's like I haven't had it, but every time I see it, I'm like, I want to try it just to try it.
Well, they did some various whatchamacallits, like a fudge-based one and something else, and gave them all that type of name. I don't remember, but they didn't last very long, so I'm assuming they didn't. Yeah, well,
Willie is predicting that maybe Tyrus is hiding in the chat. One other thing I wanted to mention is that I don't know if we talked about it a lot last week, so we probably won't get into it much this week, but this Friday night on Triller TV is the matchup that I'm very anticipating. Bishop Dyer challenging for the 10 pounds of gold against Tom Latimer. For those of you who don't remember, Bishop Dyer was formerly Baron Corbin in the WWE. He makes his Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling debut. So both him and Tom will make their debut simultaneously. They have been telling an excellent story on on X or on really all the social medias that Maple Leaf has in telling the story of how these guys were at the Performance Center at the same time, Tom and Bishop Dyer. And I don't know, I have been very vocal just today about the pay-per-view. And I think if you guys have ordered it or are planning on ordering it, make sure you tweet that out there and tag Scott D'Amore, tag the NWA, tag Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling, and tell them that you ordered the pay-per-view specifically because of that title match, because I think if there's enough support for this, we might see more of it. And I don't know about you guys, but I think the NWA really will benefit from being in a bigger spotlight than they have been for a while. I mean, it's the first time I've ordered anything on Triller in 3 years. That's how excited I am about this opportunity for Tom Latimer and the NWA.
Yay.
You know, if I did pay-per-views anymore, I would definitely think about getting it.
Well, you know, as I like, look, I don't have an entire match listing, but I know that, you know, they have Rich Swan's going to be on the card. PCO is going to be on the card. I always forget her name. The girl that was in the NWA that's now part of the WWE ID.
Kylie Ray.
Yeah, Kylie Ray.
I'm seeing a picture with Billy Gunn.
Yep. Serena Deeb will be there. So it's like a nice blend of talent from who?
Kushida, whatever. The guy that used to be in WW.
Yeah, Kushida.
He then went to TNA and now I think independent.
Yeah. I just feel like if this goes out for everybody, and if you don't want to, you don't have to, obviously, but if someone is going to invest in the NWA brand, which, you know, it's not buying into the NWA, but putting Tom Latimer on that card and so high up on the card and putting so much promotional time behind it, I really think speaks to their, at the very least, the belief that the NWA could draw some viewers into the show. So if we support that show as an NWA fan base, they might be more willing to bring in more NWA talent later. Maybe we'll see Mims. Maybe we'll see Silas Mason. Maybe we'll see the Southern Six or the Country Gentlemen or Blunt Force Trauma or Aaron Stevens. I don't know. I just think, you know, if you build it, they will come, I think is true of all things. And Noob thinks it's a good matchup too. All right. So I know we were going to do things a little bit differently tonight. We're going to talk about Power first. And
about who?
Power.
Hey, did you know this weekend I watched a lot of really good wrestling?
And none of it was professional.
None of it was professional. It was the Big 12 and Big 10 conference college wrestling tournaments, which, by the way, Nebraska had 2 champions.
You know, I get it, but like the problem is there's just not enough skits in amateur wrestling for my liking.
Yeah. Of course, you know, we won't talk about the fact that they draw WWE style crowds for those things, but hey.
Do they outdraw AEW, you're saying?
Yes.
And they have ugly belts too.
I was at an AEW show recently that drew very well.
I was at I was watching just a dual meet.
It was just a dual meet. It wasn't even like a finals or a state or anything like that.
No, it's just a standard dual meet like they do throughout the season at a high school. You want to know how many people they had?
How many?
10,000.
At a high school?
At a high school.
Wait, it wasn't at the high school because you can't fit 10,000 people in a high school gym.
There's some high schools around here.
Actually, there are some high schools that you can, but no, it was at a college gym. They booked it at a college gym because they knew it was going to be. It was like the number 1 and number 2 team, and it was early in the season and everything like that, and they drew 10,000 people. And I thought, shit, AEW barely gets that for a pay-per-view.
I'll say this. They did really well at the Crypto.com arena, formerly known as the Staples Center. That was a very full show. In fact, for those of you that clicked on this video to watch it, the backdrop of the photo is actually from that event. It was a sold out crowd, a very rowdy crowd. They were into most of the show except for the main event, and for good reason. I thought, again, I know we aren't an AEW podcast, and I know that you guys don't particularly like AEW, but I was really impressed with the match that they had with my favorite of the night was Swerve Strickland versus Ricochet. And as much as the Ricochet character has always been like this high flying guy, the moves were mostly grounded, and it was a lot of good storytelling, about the robe. A lot of us remember, gosh, I forgot his name. That's really great. The former NWA Junior Heavyweight Champion, who was in Ring of Honor, Crown Jewels. He wore the robe. Jimmy
Rave?
Yeah, Jimmy Rave, who originally wore that robe as part of Prince Nana's embassy, to have that robe now being representative as kind of like a trophy, if you will, that Swerve wears and Ricochet had stolen. So they had this storyline behind it. It added something to the story. The way that they used Prince Nana in the match I thought was really good, and that was a favorite of mine. I also really enjoyed, believe it or not, Mercedes Moné, and I think her name was, I don't remember her name,
Mama or something like that. That's what they were.
Yeah, that was a very good match, and I've been critical of Mercedes Moné kind of half-assing it, and she really looked good in this match. Like it was a phenomenal match, and then you had the two really gory matches, the cage match with Kyle Fletcher and Will Ospreay. I thought was fantastic, but a little bit too violent for me, a little bit too much gore in my wrestling. And the same thing with Mariah May and Toni Storm. It was a hell of a match, but some of the shit they were doing, I just wasn't into. Like they did the kumite where you get the gloves and put like glass on it and we're punching each other. And I'm like, I don't need to see a woman's upper body being pierced by glass. It's just not something that's appealing to me.
Oh, whiner.
No, but it was a good show. Look, it was a pretty fun show all the way around. Of course, I think they botched the main event, and having Christian come out just to essentially tap out to Moxley was pretty lackluster.
I do have one question for you.
Yeah.
Because I've been listening to people, and of course, a lot of people I listen to are huge AEW marks fans.
I wouldn't call myself an AEW mark.
No, I'm just saying they are.
Yeah.
So, it's huge. And so, one thing I've noticed, they say it was a great show, and certainly they do draw big crowds to the pay-per-view, so I'm not going to deny that. But when you're in a big crowd, it's always a lot more fun. Okay. Yeah, when you're in a big crowd, it's always a lot more fun. And
just look at January 6th if you don't believe us.
He wants to make money, Jaden. Remember that. And then the next thing is, but the two things that they would tend to do, they would go, it was great except for the main event. But then they would also, like when it got to like Toni Storm and Mariah May, they were kind of like, yeah, it wasn't any good either, but we're not talking about that. But they didn't seem to like the main event at all, not just the end. It was like they thought the entire main event was bad, and then it was even worse because of the end. So what was your thought on that? Was the entire main event bad? Or
yeah, it was boring. And match placement, I think, would have been smart right here because you had a cage match that was ultra violent. And this was like CZW stuff. Like there was a screwdriver that came into play, their thumbtacks and all that, and these guys were both bloody, and they're doing literally dives off of the top of the cage, and it's very intense and very ultra violent is the best way I could describe it. And that's following another match that was extremely ultra violent, and then you just have a wrestling match. And honestly, this was the kind of wrestling match that I used to watch on Sunday Night Heat. The crowd wasn't into it. You know, Mox looks good, man. I'm not going to lie. Moxley looked good. Cope looked really good. But the match didn't have anything that was like, oh, you need to see this. It was just kind of a pretty pedestrian type wrestling match. And, you know, if you would have put this match in the middle of the pay-per-view, I don't think it would have been the optics of it wouldn't have looked so bad. Oh, we're going to do a lights out match. You know, it's going to be in the cage to put an end to this feud. Like, maybe put that on last so that the optics at least makes it look like it's above everything else. And like I said, Mariah May and Toni Storm, they took it to another level too. And it was hard to watch it sometimes. I think putting Mox and Cope at the end of those two matches, like those two matches went back to back, and then you put that match on, who the F cares? My opinion, I feel like that was a bad place to put it. And then the finish, like I think most people there thought that Cope was going to win the title, and I think most people there thought that Christian would come out and cash in. Now, I'm not a diehard, right? So I can't tell you from the diehard standpoint, but it just, to me, in wrestling, the story is always best, I think, when you have a babyface chasing a world heavyweight champion, just within its grasp. If they would have put the belt on Copeland, he would have been like the 14th champion to win it. It would have been his first champion in like, I think, 11 years. And it would have been a cool moment for the AEW crowd. Definitely a cool moment for Copeland. Like, look, when he showed up, the fans were singing his theme music. And they spent, like, I don't know how much of that was actually on the pay-per-view, but they spent a few minutes of him just sitting in the center of the ring while the crowd sang his music. He was over. And then when Christian came out, the crowd popped like crazy. I think they could have played it where you put the belt on Copeland, he wins the title, takes the belt off Moxley. You could get rid of the whole Death Rider gimmick because it's not getting over. And then you have Christian take the title off of Cope, setting up another long-term story feud between those guys and have a better payoff than the TBS or TNT championship they did a few years ago.
You say Moxie looks good, but he kind of reminds me of this guy from the rehab center that's been working out at the gym. You know, the heroin addict is now through rehab, and they put him through they have a thing where they come work out. Yeah. That's what he reminds me of.
I mean, I'm saying that he looks like he's in good shape.
Yeah, so does the heroin addict. He's just lots of tracks and veins.
Look, I don't want to speak to the sobriety or the drug use that may or may not be occurring with Moxley. He looked good. The last time I saw Moxley live was like in May of last year during a New Japan Strong event, and I was not overly impressed with him the way that I was on Sunday in terms of his looks and in terms of how he looked in the ring. But again, I just felt like that match was not the match to close the show on. I think you could have sent the fans home happy. But obviously, there's something going on. I mean, Tony has his ideas of what he wants to do. The entire show, the entire main event, Samoa Joe was sitting up on top of the Staples Center with the ops of Hook and Shibata. And Hook was sitting there eating Funyuns, which made me laugh. And then after the match, you know, Swan did the dive, and Swerve came out, did the dive on Moxley, kind of setting up. He won the match to become the number one contender for the title, so that's probably going to be the next match for him. But I feel like at least they're planting seeds with Samoa Joe and the Ops. You know, I don't think he ever got his rematch after he lost the title.
Who was the wrestler besides Hook and Samoa Joe?
Isn't it Shibata?
Not much. What Shibata were you?
Oh my God, that was a stretch, bro.
I'm
up for your jokes. That one wasn't the best.
I was trying to think of another way to get you to say what's Shibata, but
that reminds me of Ron Dog.
What's Ron Dog?
Nothing, man. What's wrong with you?
Same thing with Sub Dog.
Yeah, I heard
Right?
that. I heard someone else use Raw Dog, and so like I've used it a few times, and everyone I use it on knows what I'm doing, but it still makes me laugh.
Today I had Sup Dog.
You're muted, DK. We can't hear you.
Yeah, I was just saying how incredibly funny you were. Sure.
Say what?
So I was just saying how incredibly funny you were. Sure, that was it.
You must be a fan of my my Friday morning jokes that I put up on the old TikTok.
Some of them.
Yes.
Mostly the ones that Jaden writes for me. Is that what you're saying?
I haven't seen it in a while, have I?
Actually, I don't know who writes them for you, but you had one recently. It was pretty damn funny.
Was it the one that was about the architecture of the roof? And it wasn't the best one I've ever seen, but it was up there.
Yes, I laughed. I laughed at that one.
What's funny about those is I get most of them just off the internet, right? Like these aren't originals. I put my own spin on them, but a buddy of mine was like, "Dude, you should write a joke book." I'm like, "Of what? The jokes I steal off of other people from the internet?"
Yes.
I'm like Carlos Mencia over here.
You should do a joke about panties. They're not the greatest thing in the world, but they're next to it.
Oh my god. I can't do those for my business. I can't do those jokes. One of my customers said that, "Oh, we love your dad jokes. Me and my daughter listen to them on the way to school every Friday." And I'm like, I can't ever say a panty joke, Jaden. Jeez. Like, one of my friends told me that he was poly, and I said, "Well, I got a surprise for you," and handed him some crackers.
Yes. Did I send you that?
Anyway, so let's talk about power.
New beat you to it. All right, so Power started off with a very I don't know how to describe this. Okay. First and foremost, this episode of Power was very radically different from the last Power episode. I feel like there has been some sort of shift in creative, some sort of shift in how they want to produce this show going forward. I mean, we even had a new intro, which I thought was pretty cool. The intro, I liked it. But the show started off before we even got the intro with Aaron Stevens. And Aaron Stevens is in the back area of the production. And he's kind of, I don't know what exactly he was going for here. I think it was trying to be avant-garde just for the sake of being quirky and weird. But he starts talking about how he just signed this lucrative contract, making him the highest paid wrestler in the NWA, which again, like, Billy, if you got money to make this guy rich, why didn't we sign somebody like Nick Nemeth when he was available on the free market? Like, if you got the money, why don't we get somebody that's going to pop the ratings? No disrespect to Stevens, but come on, the guy is a manager. If he's getting the biggest payday, then you're doing it wrong. And in this contract that Stevens procured from one William,
I like to think that was a work, by the way.
Oh, I'm sure it is, but I like to look at this as kind of like the lenses of a Mark, right? If I'm watching this show for the first time and I'm like, okay, I'm new to the NWA, show me what this is all about. And you've got Aaron Stevens, who I know is, the guy from the WWE, Damian Sandow, and he's talking about he's got the richest contract in NWA history. Like, okay, cool, man. Like, I can't wait to see it. And then you go back and find out that he's like a manager. Anyway, one of the parts that he got joining the NWA or re-signing with the NWA, one of the perks is that he was granted a title shot for any belt at any time for anybody. Like, he has the power to grant a title shot for somebody, or he could use it himself. And he made it seem like, he talked about righting the wrong of Blunt Force Trauma not having won the NWA World Tag Titles. They lost those to Murdoch's and haven't been able to reclaim them. It almost sounded like he was hinting at giving that title shot to Blunt Force Trauma. But of course, he said that they would reveal what his plans were at the end of the show. So then we get the new intro, and the first match starts off right away with the playing match between Sam Adonis, El Rudo, and Colby Carino. Now, I feel like this was a very odd choice. Oh, I didn't ask the opinions. DK, what did you think of that promo from Aaron Stevens? But you're muted, DK, if you're even still here, DK. Okay, I'm going to assume that DK walked away.
Oh,
there you
sorry.
are.
Dog wanted out. So, what were my thoughts on the beginning?
Yeah, what was your thoughts on that opening package with Mr. Aaron Stevens?
Confusion? It was like, God, you ramble.
There was a lot of rambling.
I mean, it's just like, you're rambling. When are you going to shut up? Why are you doing this? Why are you saying he's the highest paid? Why are you calling yourself a wrestler? You haven't really wrestled in years. What's going on? And so, yeah, I mean, seriously, and a lot of that was serious. I was just more confused as to what this stunt was and why he was talking so much. It was like listening to my ex-wife trying to explain something to the boys when they were young.
You could say that because she's your ex-wife.
Well, I said it when she was my wife too, but not to her. Now I can say it to her. So, anyhow, back to that. Yeah, I was just more left confused by it. And it wasn't the only thing that left me confused on this episode. But I did like the new intro.
Yeah, the intro was kind of cool. Like I thought it was cool. Anyways, I know that they kind of treat each signature live event as the beginning and ending of a season. Like if you get another signature live event, it's usually a new season for them. So the opening was good though. The intro, I mean, I like the music choice. I like the video packages that they showed. I felt like it was a good deal.
What do you think about the fact that they actually went from live event to another
live event?
Yeah, live event without any studio crap in between?
Again, this is maybe a new direction for the NWA, for William Patrick Corgan. Obviously, this show was done in such a way that they are looking at things differently. That, like you said, this is a back-to-back live event to another live event, and 2 signature live events back-to-back. Part of me feels like maybe the TV taping in Tampa will just be like cannon fodder for filling the episodes later. Because if they go through this this signature live event, and then the next event after this is Hard Times, if they were to dump those TV tapings or use them, later as filler, it would get us to Crockett Cup faster. And I really feel like that there's going to be a big emphasis on the Crockett Cup. So I'm kind of hoping that this is a sign of like, hey, we're gonna release some of those matches on YouTube, and we're gonna use some of those matches as fill-in matches while we're restructuring how we do our live event schedule, because I don't know, it doesn't make sense to me to have a TV taping in between this and Hard Times when the main one of the matches at Hard Times is supposed to be the Jax Dane Memorial Finals, and this Shockwave is all about establishing those wrestlers. So
yeah, I know that they supposedly shot about 10 hours of TV back in October or whenever they did their taping in Florida at the end of last year, towards the end of last year. And I know they did not show 10 hours of it. And so I'm kind of hoping that, like you said, it gets dumped and that whatever they filmed after this will just be used till they get their time a little more. We get back on a timely schedule.
I don't think I'm speaking out of line here in saying that the fans do miss NWA USA. because there is content out there that I again, this would be a perfect example. If you only took maybe TV title matches and did one match that was out on the territory and one maybe TV title match, and then built up a promotional vehicle, you could put that up on YouTube and people would watch. I don't know what the end game is for the NWA. I never have, and I don't think I ever will. If it's about trying to get a return on investment, then I would imagine putting out content constantly would be the quickest way to get there. But I don't know if that's what Billy's, end game is. I think he's just like, we're going to get a TV deal and we're going to will it into existence. And, until we get it, we'll just do it this way, which I don't think is a good idea.
There's something in television called proof of concept.
Yep.
And if this was proof of concept, it's proof that Billy doesn't need TV.
Yeah, I mean, the proof of concept, we had that. We had that with the 10 pounds of gold. And that's what, kind of greenlit the idea to do Power initially. But Power's changed very drastically since, 2019. This ain't the same show anymore. It isn't even the same principles anymore. That, really the only, thing that has remained constant is Joe Galley on commentary. The referees are different. The talent in the ring is different. It's an entirely different vehicle than it was when it was introduced back in 2019. And, some good, some bad, more bad than good, I would say. But even the dynamic of the show, it was like an homage to the Jim Crockett Promotions and the glory days of studio-style wrestling. And that's not what it is anymore. And that's okay. It doesn't have to be that. But, understand that that's not what it is, and that you need a new proof of concept, and you need a new idea, a new vision. If your plan is to get on TV, you need to prove it, like Jaden said.
Let's go to what's next.
Okay, so we get that first match, and it starts off, it's the playing match between Adonis and Carino. Now, initially, this match was billed, if we go back and look at the Shockwave posters, it's supposed to be a triple threat match to get in. Colby Carino, Sam Adonis, and Tyler Franks. Obviously, that changed to be just Colby and Adonis. The interesting thing about this, too, is the last time we saw Sam Adonis, he was wrestling against the world's heavyweight champion in a match that had almost zero build to it and really no promotional hype from the NWA. When DKM and I were in Forney, Texas, watching that main event, that world title match, we both kind of looked at each other and thought, why is this guy even here? And Adonis does have a history with the NWA. I mean, he in 2021, he was the regular tag team partner for Jamie Stanley, and they had some decent matches as a tag team. He had a few single matches,
Whatever happened to Stanley?
He's still working on the indies. I just don't know. I mean, apparently he and the NWA just aren't working together, which is weird because I think he's Florida based, so it would make all the sense for him to be there. But that didn't work out. So going back to Adonis's career, I mean, Adonis back in the Bruce Tharp era of the NWA was a regular for Florida Underground Wrestling. That's the promotion that had a lot of Tokyo Monster Kahagas matches, a lot of Michael Tarver matches, Bruce Santee, Steve Madison. That area was kind of a hotbed before and after Bruce Tharp, but we saw Adonis compete in that promotion during that time, and he also was a regular going back to the Bob Trowbridge era of the NWA East. In fact, that's where he broke in along with his brother Corey Graves. Back then, we used to call him Sterling James Keenan, and so it's for me as a longtime NWA fan, and I'm sure you guys can at least admire this. Like, he's a guy that has roots with the NWA, and so for him to pop up every now and then is cool. But again, I wouldn't put him anywhere near a title match. And I got to be honest, the more I see of Sam Adonis, the less impressed I am with Sam Adonis. I feel like his performance last year at the Crockett Cup, he mailed it in. I saw him not too long ago in TJ in a Lucha Libre match. I felt like he mailed it in. This match, he didn't mail it in, but I wasn't overly impressed either. To the other part of this, Colby Carino is a former World Junior Heavyweight Champion, and his history with the NWA is well documented. His father was a world's heavyweight champion. But, if you look at just wins and loss records, and I do feel like those should matter, Colby Carino had a better win-loss record than both Kerry Morton and Wrecking Ball Legursky combined. And he's in a match that's a play-in match to get in this tournament. And Kerry Morton was seeded number 3, and Wrecking Ball Legursky was seeded like number 7. So, just looking at these seeds here, or I guess Legursky was 6. How does that make sense that either one of those guys had a seat at the table and Colby Carino had to play in for his? It didn't make sense. And whoever wins this match anyways has to go up against Silas Mason in the first round. So it's an uphill climb for either one of these guys. And, in a match where Colby Carino is usually the fastest guy because of his size and style of wrestling, he's usually the fastest guy. He's usually the quickest guy. He does the high-flying moves. Sam Adonis is a guy who can match his speed, his agility, and has size on Colby. So the card's really stacked against Colby. And the match starts off slow. And, in fact, this was very reminiscent of his match with EC3. It felt like it was stuck in first gear for most of the match. Adonis works to slow down Carino. He's got an answer for Carino's high-impact moves. He grounds him. He's got him in an armbar submission. He's got him in a headlock. And it was just knowing that these guys can go, I was very disappointed with the beginning of this match. I did think it was a nice touch at the tournament that they were wearing Jax Dane armbands to commemorate the memory of Jax Dane. Now, again, this event was filmed on January the 11th, and we know that Dane had passed away on the 26th of December, so it was still very fresh in the hearts and minds of the talent that were on this card. So I did appreciate that. I felt like the match was basically Adonis just working very slow and just, having a counter for everything that Carino had. But then the match did end with the land seal driver. I think that's what he called it. Joe Galley called it. Which kind of came out of nowhere. Finally, we have Adonis trying something a little bit more extreme. He kind of leaped up, and Colby caught him on his shoulders and then connected with that land seal driver for the victory. It was a good way to end the match. It's a good win for Colby to get into the tournament, but the match itself, it was mid at best. I've seen Colby have much better matches, and I'm just not sure why the NWA is booking Adonis at this point. They're not utilizing him to his best usage, and what he's given the NWA recently hasn't been anything worth writing about. So that was my take on this one. DK, what did you think about this?
I liked it a little bit better than you did.
Okay.
I didn't think it was great, but I thought it was kind of a solid undercard match. What you might see in the second or third match on a card. Now it was a play into a tournament to crown the number 1 contender, but that tournament has so many issues as is, especially with the rankings.
Yeah.
That, I don't know, it was like, sure, why not? And the weird thing is it didn't feel like a play-in match since it wasn't a triple threat.
Yeah.
And then it was almost like, if you weren't going to do the triple threat, you should have just canceled it and put Colby in at 8 anyway.
Yeah. Look.
Because really then what you have is you just have him having one more, whoever the winner was, having one more match than everybody else was,
Yeah. And like you said, that, Franks ends up in the tournament. And we'll talk about the tournament seeding in a little bit later, but he gets a spot in the tournament. So Frank's the guy who has no victories in the NWA, right? Sam Adonis, who we haven't seen in over a year, get a play-in match with the guy who had the most victories out of the 5 guys we've mentioned already tonight. and he has to play to get into the tournament. Franks gets a regular, he's in the tournament, and Adonis and Carino have to play. It just doesn't make sense to me. So that was the first match. And again, I was really hoping that the NWA was going to show some respect and some dignity with this thing. And to kick it off when you see Adonis dancing in the ring, to get started, it kind of left a bad taste in my mouth. So that was the first match. And then we get the first of a few skits, promos, not even montages, but just video packages. This one, we can only believe is from the Henry home. Kylie Alexa, a.k.a. Kylie Page. We know that she was injured at the end of last year. She missed her opportunity at the Looks at Kiel to team up with Big Mama to challenge for the women's tag titles, a position that her sister Kenzie filled. And so Kylie is in the pool rehabbing, and most people would be excited to see Kylie in the pool. Her father was very stressed out about Kenzie's role within the NWA currently, and I believe that was Hunter Drake, not to be confused with Carson Drake, no relation, who was standing there at the pool. And this was just kind of a weird, I'm not sure what they were trying to set up with this one, because Drake is on his, Hunter is on his phone, not really paying attention. Kenzie and Kylie's dad, who I think his name is Chris, but I could be wrong, he was sitting there just kind of berating Kenzie about, you got to get back to the ring so that you can help your sister keep those 2 titles. Like the family house counted on it. Maybe it does. I don't know. But it was just kind of weird. Then Kylie gets out of the pool, and the pretty prima donna is upset that nobody offered her a towel, which I kind of could understand. She was rehabbing. Dad, hand her a towel. Hunter, hand her a towel. Hunter kind of did this weird thing where he checked her out. Now, I think Hunter in real life is the boyfriend of either Kylie or Kenzie. So this was kind of a weird deal, and it didn't make a lot of sense. Kenzie's dad is troubled with the amount of stress that Kenzie's under, but both Kylie and Hunter downplay it. This skit, again, I don't know where they're going with this, and hopefully maybe there'll be some seeds were planted here that we just didn't see yet. Could there be some dissension between the Page sisters? Could Kylie and Kenzie be heading towards turmoil? Is there going to be some jealousy from Kenzie to Kylie because maybe Hunter favors the other sister, or maybe Kylie is jealous of her sister who's been able to hold the women's world title for almost 600 days and now be a tag team champion? I don't know. But Luthez does the gross throw up face, and I don't know. This wasn't something that I loved about the NWA, but I at least can appreciate trying something different. DK, I know you have a different take. What's yours?
Well, let's go through a little bit. So I just finished the last match. And then I know they typically kind of just have some hoo-ha stuff, so I'm not really paying that close of attention. There's no interview going on or whatever. And so I just kind of hear this, thing of some guy saying, that's it. That's right, or whatever. And so I'm looking up, and there's some 12-year-old in a swimming pool, doing her. That's what she looked like. She looked like some 12-year-old in a swimming pool.
I didn't argue with you.
Moving her arms back and forth. And I'm like, did I punch a button somewhere? Am I, am I watching something different? Did the show end and I, didn't realize it? What's going on? And so it wasn't until that, I don't remember whose name they said. I don't remember if they said Kylie or Kenzie's name. I feel like it was the dad saying something about Kenzie that I realized is like, oh, okay. The 12-year-old's Kylie. The guy's their dad who we saw come down to the ring with them.
Yeah.
And then little sad boy is Kylie's is Kylie's boyfriend.
Or was he Kenzie's boyfriend?
Kylie's, I thought.
I don't know.
I was told it was Kylie's, and so it was just like, okay, yeah, maybe it is Kenzie's, but I was told Kylie. And
don't type in Kylie and Drake, because then you get Kylie Jenner and Drake the artist.
Yeah, and so I'm like, what is this? It's like, how can this family thing in a swimming pool in someone's backyard where they're doing simple rehab work or whatever be such bad acting?
Yeah.
And then it was like, I mean, it was over. And what I told you was I felt nothing once it was over. I wasn't intrigued by the idea. And it seems to me, knowing that coming up, there's a Kylie versus Markova for the #1 contenders match, that maybe they're trying to sneak Kylie in some way for a sister championship match. But it's like, at the end of it, I was just left like, okay, it means nothing to me. I feel nothing. The acting wasn't good. The story might be interesting, but it just really, I'm not left with any feeling of any way. I'm not sitting there going, oh, this could be an exciting direction, or, oh, wow, that was just horrible. In fact, when I rated the show on our Discord, where I gave it a B, I totally threw this and the Southern Six Get Out, because like I didn't know how to factor them in. I was just like going, no, this is all weird. And so yeah, it mainly left me just like my soul had been drained and I no longer had any emotions.
So
real quick, if you do want to look up Kylie Page, you might find a girl who looks nothing like a 12-year-old if you type in Kylie Page in Google. Completely different person, though.
Well, it's times like that I realize that I just don't do enough weed. Because I don't do any, so.
For shits and giggles, I went to Hunter Drake's Instagram, and I just randomly picked a picture, and the first person that liked it was Kenzie Page, and there was no sign of Kylie Alexa liking that photo at all. So
maybe it is her then.
Let's see, just the next one. Let's see, Jared Fritz, Reverend Dan Wilson. Anyone else I recognize? Nope.
Does it show him snogging anybody?
What does snogging mean?
You don't want to be demonetized. Just, you don't know, go on.
Yeah, I'm a good, wholesome young man. I don't know what this you're speaking of, and I don't want to be demonetized, so please watch yourself.
Yeah, that's why I haven't seen the videos.
Oh my gosh. Luthez with the 80 teen soap opera Swan Lake. It was Swan's Crossing, my friend. I know this because that was when I was introduced to Sarah Michelle Gellar for the first time. But yeah, that was
Buffy was my first time.
Look, there's no such thing as a bad time.
Quick interruption here for David Valentine. Right after she signed her big mega contract with the NWA that everybody was so excited about and everybody was talking about, she declared that she was injured and needed surgery and would be out for at least a year.
Yeah, that happened relatively quick, and it's kind of a bummer because I do feel like there was some momentum with her. I don't know what the plan was. She had a great look. Her in-ring was a little green, a lot of green. DK and I saw her at the Crockett Cup, and we were not impressed. Get out of the ring to make the tag. I think Charity King said, you have to be outside the ring. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Oh, my God.
Yes, because they tried to tag each other like, what was it with both of them? Were they both in the ring, or were they both out of the ring?
So I think Tahaka was sitting down and like over the ropes, but was still in the ring. And she leaned up, like raised her arm up, and Yevas tagged her. And then Charity was like, "You can't tag while you're in the ring." And like the referee's like, "Oh, shit happens, I guess." Now, real quick, Noob said it was a weird video package, and he believes that this might lead up to Kenzie dropping the women's title. We do know that at Shockwave, and I have the graphic here because I kept all the graphics for Shockwave because I knew that this would be coming up. They're going to have a match between Markova versus Hunter. Now, remember at the time, Idol was injured from the Looks at Kill pay-per-view, and I think Kylie was still recovering from her collarbone issue. So at least this video package kind of planting seeds for this match, and then we know that Markova and Kylie have a match later, I think at Hard Times for that number one contender spot. Yeah.
Yeah, this is when people were telling me that Kylie and Hunter were. That's why Kylie was going to be ringside, was because she was Hunter's girl.
And maybe she is. Like I said, I don't know. I just, my little bit of internet sleuthing there just revealed what I already shared with you. Okay, so again, bad acting be damned. Maybe there are planting seeds for something in the future, but this was not a hit. This, our old friend Josephus, the late Josephus, I know you guys weren't a very big fan of his, but it kind of felt like this would have been up his alley, and he would have done something a little bit more interesting than what we got here. So that leads us to the women's tag team match. Billy Corgan should not be on commentary. He's not at it. He doesn't add anything. At first I thought, well, hey, this will be cool because we get to see the inner thoughts of the man who books this, and maybe we'll get better explanations of things. We don't. We get everything is we don't get any straight answers from him. He has to jump through hoops to explain why he doesn't think that CJ is a good wrestler. When, okay, I know that in the old territory days, maybe Bruce Tharp and Bob Trowbridge had their thumbs on the pulse of the NWA a little bit more. But Billy doesn't realize that CJ has actually been a champion in the Texas promotion and is one of the standout talents in the NWA Texas. He doesn't acknowledge that. He doesn't realize that. So that, to me, is like, well, then you're not doing your job as being like a director of the territory system. That was the first thing that kind of bothered me. And then secondly, like, I'll get to more into it later, but he still thinks that CJ is the imbecile that was Jake Dumas's arm candy. He doesn't know that she knows how to wrestle. Anyone who knows Christy Janes knows she's a very solid wrestler. And then he even said something like, I know her English isn't good. I'm like, dude, she speaks really good in English. Like, this is not, I don't feel good about what you're saying right now, Billy, and I don't really like you on commentary. The pair of Misty Marks and Christy Janes, again, they're two of the top female talents in Texas. I know currently Markova holds the NWA Women Texas Championship, the TSW title, and that's cool and all, but like Misty Marks and Christy Janes are two of the top women in this area. Like Christy Janes is a former TSW Women's Champion. Misty Marks is a former Dog Pound Championship Wrestling Women's Champion. They've both fought each other over the belt, and I feel like this is kind of a similar situation to the King Bees, where you've got two very good talents from that area who have a history of feuding with each other. Let's see if we can catch lightning in a bottle for a second time and put these two opponents in the ring and make them a tag team. And they didn't look bad, but I just wish Billy cared more about tag team wrestling. Galley does put over what CJ's done, but he fails to mention what Misty Marks has done as well. The match kicks off with Big Mama just tossing around CJ and Misty Marks, and it kind of feels like, well, this is going to be a nothing match because Mama's just got control of it. And you would imagine that when Kenzie gets in, she's the world's heavyweight champ, or excuse me, the world's women's champion. She's going to come in and tear the house down. But she's actually the one in peril here. And what's really odd about this too is that it's hard to tell what Kenzie Page is in the NWA. Is she a fearless women's champion that the fans should rally around? Is she a heel champion? I don't really know that they've properly identified her. In some areas, she gets cheered like a babyface. In some areas, she gets booed like a heel. So it's really hard to kind of pin down what they see her as. And the same thing with Big Mama. Nothing Big Mama has done in the NWA is heelish, right? She's a very abrasive personality, but outside of that, she hasn't done anything to be a heel. And of course, they're wrestling two of the local talents that are really over with the crowd. So they are treated as baby faces, but not by the announcers. It was kind of a weird dynamic. Like I said, Mama's just tossing around both of them, and you tagging Kenzie, and CJ takes over right away. Now let me go on my other Billy rant, because he puts over Kenzie. He's telling her she's a great talent, but then he says behind the scenes he has problems with both Kenzie and Kylie. Okay, tell us more, boss. And when Danny Deals kind of asks him about it, he goes, "Oh, I'm surprised you would say that. Why would you say that?" And then Billy says, "Well, that's kind of behind the scenes stuff that I don't really want to talk about." Then why did you bring it up, Billy? What's the point of putting over a talent to say that you have problems with them, but then you don't want to elaborate? What are we doing here? The mental gymnastics that you're using to make yourself seem important in this conversation, and then withholding the goods, it didn't make sense to me. And again, it's just like, if you don't want to share that information, which is, it's fine, it's classified, it's behind the scenes, it's insider baseball talk, cool. Don't bring it up. If there's not going to be a payoff for what you're talking about, why even bring it up? Am I wrong here, DK? I just need a little bit of justification here. Am I okay in thinking that this was a stupid thing to say during a broadcast?
I mean, well, if something comes out of Billy's mouth, it's stupid. But, there's so much to go over with Billy in this match. Billy says he doesn't like CJ. She's not that good. Okay, well, Billy's right. CJ's not that good. But CJ's a character he created.
Yep.
Christy James is great. Well, CJ doesn't speak English very well. Well, okay. Again, character you created. I've talked to Christy James, had a full conversation with her before. She talks probably better English than he does. He has a problem. And she's not that good. Why the fuck are you giving her a shot at the World Tag Team title with a partner that she never had before? But Billy comes out and says stuff almost as if to prove that he's a mark who doesn't know what the fuck he's doing.
Yeah.
And then that's the way the comments with the Page sister. It's like he says stuff and he has no plan. He has no idea. He has no thought when he says it. He just says it. And then after he says it, and somebody like Danny Deals, he can't just let that go. Nobody should. It's like, well, what are you talking about? I don't want to talk about it. Behind the scenes stuff. Well, like you said, why the fuck did you bring it up?
If you go to Danny Deals' Facebook page, no, not Facebook, Instagram page, you'll see that he and the Page sisters are very close. And, I don't know what the dynamic is. And I kind of feel like Deals is maybe that uncle role to them. That's what I'm hoping anyways. But he's photographed with them a lot.
Right kind of uncle.
Yeah. Well, he always puts them over. So of course, if you're going to,
and he really likes Kylie.
And if you're going to say something to, disparaging about those girls, of course he's going to say something. So again, things like this make Billy look stupid. You use the word mark. I'm going to say he just looks stupid. And this, again, we're talking about, you have territories now. These aren't just people from the area. These are your territories, and territories that you approved, of talent that you signed off on, that you allow to be on your show. and you're going to run them down. Christy James is a phenomenal athlete. She looks great. She has wonderful wrestling and talent. And she honestly should be marketed better on your product. But no, it's very self-sabotaging. You're throwing your talent under the bus. CJ is not very good. Kenzie and Kylie I have problems with, but I don't want to get into it. This does nothing to make the match look better, your talent look better. It makes you look stupid. So anyone who's running back to Billy, telling him what J. Cal said, tell him to get the fuck off of commentary because you don't know what the fuck you're doing, and bring in someone who actually knows what they're doing, because you suck and you're bearing your own product. It doesn't make any goddamn sense.
A lot of it doesn't make sense. I mean, I don't get it. I don't get any of it. And it's just, here's the thing. This goes back to even like the Southern Six and Kyle when he would sit there. Oh, he deserved when he got mouthy and he shouldn't have opened it. So it's okay for wrestlers to manhandle announcers? You know, and again, I was thinking the other day the difference between wrestling and sports entertainment. And I would note one of the things I noted, maybe we can get Jaden to chime in here a little bit just about this whole fiasco. But to me, wrestling tries to present itself as a real thing. Yes, it's always had stuff that was obviously fake, people running with chairs and, you know, things like that. But it tries to present itself as a legit thing. You hit the referee, you got fined or suspended or, you know, whatever. Same with like touching the announcers and that type of stuff. You know, there are consequences. You know, another wrestler beat you up. I don't know. Roddy Piper would turn face. Whereas sports entertainment, it doesn't try to pretend to be real. It just tries to be entertainment. And if you like that, you know, fine. It's not my cup of tea. And Billy Corgan has this huge fucking chip on his shoulder. However many years after he's bought the NWA, he bought it with a chip on his shoulder, and all these years later, he still has it, and it's gotten bigger. And the reason is because people don't recognize how great he is. So, I don't know. Jaden, you have any thoughts just on hearing this crap that we have to put up with? I mean,
yes.
I mean, outside of Dave Dahl, are you going to go and trash your talent?
I don't trash Dave Dahl. First of all, he's not my talent. I'm just an employee of Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators, and I don't trash Dave Dahl. I'm actually pretty kind on Dave Dahl. I could be a lot worse. You know, like his wrestling matches. But I don't know. It's Billy Corgan. I really want to like him. You know, I watched his interview he did recently with Bill Burr, and I actually kind of liked Billy Corgan. I'm like, where's this Billy when I have to listen to you guys explain what he's like? I really want to like him. I was never a Smashing Pumpkins fan, so I can't, you know, not like, oh, I love the Pumpkins, so I gotta like Billy Corgan. No, I really didn't like the Pumpkins. In fact, I think their modern stuff's way better than their classic stuff. But if his chip on his shoulder is because you can't see the genius, and because he thinks that, you know, because he's such a genius, he made it into music. The reason is he was actually a good musician. He's not a good booker. Does not understand wrestling, and a lot of his influence was Bob Luce. And if you know anything about Bob Luce, he was over the top, but not always in a good way. In fact, often not in a good way. And that kind of sounds like what you guys describing Billy. I don't know. Like, if I was running the NWA, I would utilize Billy Corgan a lot differently. Billy Corgan would be there somewhere in the episode in the most grandiose, outrageous, flamboyant outfit he could possibly coming down to a song with a huge intro, talk about what we're going to see on the NWA this week, and then get out of there. Use him for anything he has, that star power, that look, everything he has, and then just get him out of there and don't let him go on commentary. Give him a script. He says what's going on, what we're going to see this week on Power. Give him that big introduction. It'll feed his ego. It'll look good because, he has some great costumes and some great stage presence, especially, when he's in his gothic Smashing Pumpkins gimmick. But just get him off the commentary and just use him. If you're going to use Billy Corgan, why is old man in skinny jeans Billy Corgan the option you choose?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, and I agree wholeheartedly. There are ways that you could use Billy Corgan, and I think that you could play off of that star power that he has, but I don't feel like they found a good combination for that yet. And we find out more as the show goes on. He says some other things that puts his foot in his mouth, and just overall, a 3-man booth was never an optimum way to have wrestling. And when you have Danny Deals, who, he does a pretty good job of doing color commentary. I've been very happy with Danny Deals in the booth. And you got Joe Galley, who is your play-by-play, pretty straight-laced play-by-play, unless it's the Southern Six attacking Kyle. You have a very dynamic booth, and I don't think they need any additional appearances. Now, maybe if you want to have the owner of the company out for a title match because it's important, I get that, and you could do that. But him being in the booth all the time, I think, is just not good. Anyways, getting back to that match, it was, again, I don't feel like this was a bad match, but it was very pedestrian. It didn't really have a whole lot of excitement in it. You've got both, the champs. They got all the belts, and they didn't really do anything all that special or unique in the ring. As the match was falling apart, Kenzie snuck in and got a Kenzie cutter for the victory. She pinned Misty Marks. And they didn't even have her pin CJ, the one that Billy says was the bad wrestler, the pin Misty Marks. So it just was kind of again, wasn't a bad match, but it just shows like the lack of depth that the NWA has in its women's tag team division. And it reminds me that, again, Billy hates tag team wrestling, and it reminds me that Billy should not be on commentary. So then that brings us to the next part where we get actually, I wanted DK's opinion on the match, but I don't. DK, are you still here? Where'd you go?
Yeah, I'm here.
What did you think of the match overall? Because I was okay, but it was nothing to write home about.
Yeah, and for those wondering, since we always get people who ask weird questions like this, the reason I keep blotting out is because I have a dog that's all lonely and by himself, and I'm the only one here, so he wants me to play tug of war or something with him. So, and none of you are interested in watching me do that. The match itself was fine. I do kind of, just watching it, I would say they're trying to probably book some kind of angle that will lead to Kenzie and Mama having a match. And the only reason I say this is because I've noticed that Mama does a lot of the work, and then somehow at the end, Kenzie comes in, hits a cutter, and wins and gets the win. It's just like I almost wonder if that's going to lead to something. I just don't know if I give Billy enough credit to think like that. But the match itself was, it was fine. I didn't have anything against the match itself. I'm not going to sing high praises, but I didn't think it was bad.
Well, then that brings us to the next skit of the night. Sorry to DKM and sorry to Luthez. Again, this one I can appreciate a little bit more than the last one, and I know that's like glass to the eardrums of DKM, but this was an over-the-top. Did you guys ever do those role play fantasy wrestling leagues where you would write a promo to try to beat the other wrestler who was writing a promo. And the idea was to write the most creative, interesting story, and whoever wrote the better story, then the Fed head would put them over in a wrestling match that person would write. Yeah,
I was never a fan of AEW.
I used to do some nerdy shit when I was younger. That was probably the nerdiest thing that I ever did. But getting back to it, this is what this felt like. It was an over-the-top role play about, Silas Mason, making sure that he's putting the whole entire NWA on notice. And I feel like they definitely were planting seeds here, because we get the Southern Six at a bar, and something was off about that waitress. I don't know if you guys noticed that either, but it just something didn't sit well with me right there. They're playing pool, drinking beers, playing pool. It's Alex Taylor, AT, too hot. You got Silas Mason, the Thrillbilly, the biggest man to ever wrestle. For whatever reason, Ricky Morton's there. Not Kerry, Ricky. And he's just sitting down on a chair looking like an old man. And
he made me look like a cheery young man.
Yeah, and it points out, Luthez says that the barmaid was wearing an NWA shirt, for fuck's sake. Yeah, that was, again, a little tongue-in-cheek. I get it. And I think it was written to be this way. This one I don't think was horrible acting. I think this was horrible by design. Again, I could be wrong here.
I kind of agree with that.
I wrote, it feels like this promo was intended to be over the top, which it was. It comes down to Taylor is telling, Silas, hey, what are we going to do about this tournament? You and Kerry are both in it. What if it comes down to the 6? And they go through this whole explanation that when Silas Mason wins, he's still got a job for Kerry and Ricky. And one of the things that Silas said that I wrote down I thought was interesting is he said, when Thrillbilly wins the title, wins the 10 pounds of gold, everybody's going to eat. And I thought that was an interesting thing to say, because, the metaphor of people are going to be able to eat, meaning that Silas Mason is still going to carry the 10 pounds of gold as a world champion. He's going to carry the NWA, and he's still going to be able to take care of people beneath him, because he's going to raise the NWA stock. At least that's what I got from it. And we've said it before that Thrill's the guy. He's the guy that should be the world's heavyweight champion, or at least the next guy to be world's heavyweight champion. And whether he is or not, really, it doesn't matter. He's not right now, but the aspirations of him being world's champion are up there. I think Ricky has a great line about them being terrible pool players, saying something like, you guys are much better wrestlers than you are pool players. And Ricky kind of reminds him, like, hey, Kerry Morton's in this tournament too. That's my son. He's got wrestling in his blood. And it was an over-the-top, goofy-ass promo, whatever you want to call it. But I feel like it's, again, a different way for them to tell stories. And if they're looking to add more stories to what they're producing, I think, again, it's not just the wrestling, it's the story that they're telling as well. And this isn't typical Billy Corgan booked wrestling. This feels different. Maybe he is still doing it. Maybe he wrote the skit. Maybe it's Silas Mason who wrote the skit. I don't know. I don't care. I like the fact that they were trying to find a different way to tell the story. I know it didn't hit. I know Luthez said it was awful. I know DK didn't like it. But DK, tell us why you did not like it. Muted. You muted.
Yeah. Well, much like the last one, and I will say it would not surprise me at all if both of them were supposed to be bad acting, Bailey, whatever. What it reminded me of now, with some time behind it and some clarity, it reminded me of a parody of what World Class used to do, because World Class was like one of the first ones to show at a wrestler's house, or when they went to go talk to Jimmy Garvin and Precious was there, and when after the thing with Sunshine, or when Bugsy McGraw threw Bill Mercer down a water slide at a water park. Funny story. That wasn't planned. Bugsy just did it. And they liked it so much that they made Bill Mercer go back up the slide and come down it in his suit so that they could get what they had filmed earlier, which was Bugsy taking him, tossing him down the slide, and then get the down thing of him coming out from the slide. So yeah, that was fun. A couple of corrections to what you're saying. It started more as a confrontation between Silas and Ricky. As Ricky was going, well, my boy's in there, because Silas was talking about how he was going to win it. Yeah. And Ricky was like, well, my boy's in there, and Carrie, you can't underestimate Carrie, something like that. And Silas was like, oh, Carrie kind of snobbishly talking down about Carrie. And Alex Taylor originally was the one that was kind of like, hey, we said we'd do this just like whatever. It's us against the world, and if we ever face each other, whoever comes out on top, fine, but then it's all back to the love, or whatever phrase he used. And then Thrillbilly was basically kind of telling Alex Taylor, you ain't shit either. It's me.
Yeah.
And so, could we be heading towards a Southern Six breakup? Possibly. And which in my view would be good, since they so bastardized the Southern Six and never did it right. They were handed a golden egg, and they tossed it over their left shoulder. But yeah, I was much like the other one. I was just left afterwards kind of empty with this one. Just like, okay, at least from the beginning, I knew what it was, a bad skit. And I was just left empty and no excitement, no dread, just like, well, okay then. One thing you did miss, though, before we get into the next thing, because the next one is going to be the tournament match.
Yeah.
But earlier in the show, they actually broke down what the tournament people are.
Yeah, I was going to wait.
Place to talk about it. Get there.
Yeah, that was my plan. Okay, so I told you that I was not really happy with the way that this tournament was put together. Like, again, I thought this was going to be a fitting tribute to Jax Dane. This sounded like, at least from Billy Corgan's words, that it's something that they're going to do annually. He says this tournament will forever, honor the memory of Jax Dane from now and going forward. It's not like they had a history of having a tournament to crown the number one contender. This is kind of out of the ordinary. And so we'll go ahead and throw up the graphic here too that I have. Because again, this was always advertised as an 8-man tournament, in December and January. We were told it was going to be a tournament, had nothing to do with Jax Dane. We never heard anything about Jax Dane with regards to this tournament. And then we got, what's going to be an 8-person tournament. All right. We knew that we had the play-in match that got altered with these guys. Obviously, the tournament, they're not going to give you all the answers right now. And we know that the finals of this tournament will be decided at Hard Times. So the tournament itself goes, and I'm just going to list by seeding. You have Thrillbilly, Silas Mason, seeded number 1. Number 8, we now know is Colby Carino, who won via a play-in. Number 2 in the tournament is Max the Impaler. Number 7 is Tyler Franks. Number 3 is Ricky Morton. Number 6 is Wrecking Ball Legursky.
Kerry Morton.
What I said, Ricky? Sorry, Kerry. Number 4 seed is Birchill, and number 5 is Zion. Now, I mentioned respect and dignity with this tournament because, first and foremost, it would have been nice to see some guys, again, and I say this every single week, and I will continue to say it until it changes. Wins and losses should matter. Wins and losses should absolutely matter. And when you're making a tournament, and again, Brilliant Billy, with his ideology of why you book certain things, he, during the course of the next match, talks about, making the decision to put Birchill number 4 and Zion number 5, and said, well, you could easily switch it. Well, no shit, Billy. First of all, number 4 wrestles number 5, so it doesn't matter who gets ranked seated higher, Zion or Birchill. But for the fact of the matter is, neither one of those guys have had anything I would deem successful in the NWA. None of these people in this tournament are who I'd consider the top guys of the NWA. And I guess that's more problematic about the NWA. Like, where's Daisy Kill? He's someone that I want to watch wrestle. He's somebody that I think would have been a good addition to this tournament. You've got Colby Carino. Good job. You got Kerry Morton. I'm okay with that. But tell me, why is Wrecking Ball Legursky number 6 and, I don't know, Jay Bradley not number 7? Where's Jay Bradley in this tournament? He's had as many losses as Wrecking Ball Legursky has as a singles competitor. What does this do for anybody? Where's Magic Jake Dumas? If you're going to put all the rejects in there, where's Magic Jake? Or I don't know, how about I almost called him Nick Mondo. What about Mike Mondo? Well, why not put Mike Mondo in that tournament? At least he has a pinfall victory over Birchill, who I don't think has beat anybody in his time in the NWA. You crafted a tournament. You put names into the tournament that are so pedestrian. They not only do they not have a pulse, they flatlined a long time ago. There is no one of interest in this tournament. Maxie Impaler? You mean the person that lost their title and did nothing after it, has done almost nothing to be relevant. Barely wrestled Tyler Franks. We saw that on TV last week. And now they're going to have a rematch in the tournament? Why? Who does that benefit? What about Spencer Slade in this tournament? Nope, no room for him. I mean, Jaden, you heard me list some of the names. If Dr. Lawrence Zirconium asked you to, hey, why don't you grab some of those talents from the NWA? Yeah, you've used Wrecking Ball Legursky and Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators uses the Wrecking Ball Legursky the right way. Tell me, like, as Birchill is right now, is he a draw?
Is he used well? No. He might draw based purely on name, but if you're trying to draw on his in-ring presence in the NWA, his in-ring presentation, then no. I would say no. Now, if they're going to be, this is a tournament that's going to be people that are trying to establish themselves in the NWA, and that's what they said. Like, these are the tournament for people that are trying to move up the ladder, and that's why we're doing this. We're giving somebody an underdog, the winner of this underdog tournament, a title shot. I could work on Birchill and some of those other names on there, but that's not how they're trying to do it. They're trying to make it look like it's the top wrestlers. Like, any one of these wrestlers can be a legitimate challenger for the world title, and I don't think there's more than 2. And that's not saying against Birchill. Birchill's one of my favorite wrestlers. He's very talented. I mean, in the NWA, I like him a lot. He could be utilized much better and actually be worth something. But right now, no, I don't think so.
And maybe this would be an exercise for a different podcast down the road, but like, if you are building the NWA right now, there's only one guy in the whole tournament, one person in the whole tournament who I think is legitimately has a chance at holding the 10 pounds of gold, and that's Silas Mason. They booked him. They put him number 1. Good job, Billy. You got that one right. But the rest of it, I don't know. And DK, got to hear your thoughts on this. Like, what do you think about the first ever Jax Dane Memorial Tournament? You know what? They didn't even put his tag team partner Tim Storm in this tournament. Like, former world heavyweight champion. They didn't even acknowledge him and put him in the tournament. You're on mute, DK.
This is sad. I mean, it really, really is. And look, I mean, no disrespect to anyone in the tournament, but none of you deserve to be in there but Thrillbilly. You could make an argument for Kerry Morton or Colby Carino, but really outside of that, no. Max the Impaler at 2? Really? Max the Impaler is your second best man in an 8-man tournament? What the fudge?
Yeah.
And we talked last week with the match with Tyler Frank. Max isn't a monster in with the men. Put Max in the ring with Thrillbilly? The guy's 300 and some pounds. Max is like 210. Gets about 5 more inches of height just because of how does the hair. Well, hey, also, would you put the bracket up there for me again?
Yeah. Oops. Hold on. Yep.
Okay. So we see the bracket here. And I'm hoping to gosh that this isn't the actual way that they set the matches up. Because
it is.
Because have you noticed, because when you set a tournament, the idea is to always get 1 and 2 in the final. Now, that doesn't happen all the time because of upsets and things like that. But that's the idea. The idea is that you want your 2 best to meet in the final. That's why you're doing seeding. When you're seeding, you're saying, these are the top 2, and these are the ones that we really want to see in the final. And this is what we think, are what the people want to see. So the first thing you got going here is when looking at this, you have 1 and 2 meeting in the next round in the semifinal. And assuming Thrillbilly beats Carino, we're looking at Thrillbilly versus Tyler Frank or Thrillbilly versus Max.
Yep.
Which one of those matches do you want to see more?
Tyler Frank.
Yeah, same. I don't want to see Max the Impaler versus Silas Mason, and I feel like if you put that match out there, you're going to destroy anything special and unique that you have in Max the Impaler. It's already mostly
or Thrillbilly, one of the two.
That as well, yeah. And to your point, yeah, look, if I'm being honest here, and I don't know the results, but my assumption is this: it's going to be Kerry and Thrillbilly in the finals, right? And
that's my guess.
Yeah, and I mean, and that would make the most sense. But again, they didn't even get the tournament bracketing right. You're right, DK. It should have been 1, 8, 3, 6, 2, 7, 4, 5, right?
Yep. So I mean, just God, you're stupid. I mean, that's anyone who does tournament knows that.
The number one, real quick, I want to read Luthaz's comment, a few other comments real quick. Number 1 contender tournaments are Billy's lazy out when the convoluted idea bag runs low. How many damn titles have they held one for now? 3, 4? Yeah, they do tournaments very frequently.
That's because wrestling fans love tournaments. That's Tony Khan.
We used to when they were special and unique. The King of the Ring was an awesome thing. The J Cup, the J Crown, the tournament leading up to that's cool. But I don't need a tournament every 6 months. I don't need a tournament every 6 weeks.
Well, and also those were in the U.S. In the U.S., tournaments were either in the early days were normally for a title. If you had a one-night tournament, there was a vacant title. So we're going to have one-night tournament to fill that vacant title. Or they were a special thing, and you didn't see many of them because you only knew your area. But in this day and age, there's somebody holding a freaking tournament every other month.
Yeah.
Or two people holding a tournament every other month. Sometimes the same promotion holding a tournament every other month. I mean, we just got rid of the Continental Classic on AEW, and the Owen Hart one's coming up, and seems like there's something in between because we love our tournaments.
Yeah.
And but okay, if you're going to do a tournament, put on a big one.
Yeah.
And now here's a question that I really have for you, Jay. What does it say that they can't even bring in anybody of any name value for at least one slot?
Was that for me or for Jaden?
Well, I mean, I asked you, but it can be for either one of you. I mean, the people out there who like Baron Corbin, not my thing, but I mean, wouldn't you have wanted to have brought in somebody like that? Or shoot, even the Italian guy that's probably going back home since WWE got him. I mean,
What Italian guy?
what was his name? Do you remember, Jaden?
What Italian guy?
He was part of Imperium.
Oh, Da Vinci?
I don't remember his name at all.
Leonardo da Vinci or something like that?
The one they just cut.
Yeah, I don't know. Some guy.
So, but anyway, there would have been some name value in bringing him in. Marcel, something like that. Or, I don't know.
Let's see. 7 talents cut. Come on, I don't want to.
Giovanni Vinci, formerly known as Fabian Eichner, Aichner.
In defense of that, though, remember these are also guys who were released recently, and this tournament took place back in January. So,
well, I mean, yeah, I know, but I'm just saying
the point that you're making still stands. Like, no, those guys weren't available, but you're right. You're right. Like, look,
I mean, anybody?
Mustafa Ali's out there working anyone that'll take him. I know that I don't think he's super popular in these parts, but a guy like Mance Warner, a guy like, and I know this is like almost sacrilege, but Effie, these are names that on the independents have some value to them. And I'm not saying that you need to use them, but I'm sure they cost a lot less than Bishop Dyer. And I don't foresee him actually working with the NWA anyways, but it'd be nice if they did to continue that storyline.
Richard Holiday's worked.
Richard Holiday hasn't worked for the NWA, just Exodus Pro.
Yeah, Richard Holiday is the one I was going to say. I was also going to be sarcastic, like, what? Wasn't James Ellsworth available?
Heck, I almost would have accept him.
He's got more value to me than Tyler Franks.
Yeah, he's got a chin up on him.
Oh my
exactly.
God.
I mean, put him in the ring with Max. You would at least want to watch that. Max Squash Ellsworth.
Yeah, normally he's abusing women. I mean, I find to watch a binary person abuse him.
Exactly.
And Luther says Enzo. Like, look, we're not asking for a lot. Look, I'll say this, man. Memphis Wrestling, the United Wrestling Network partner in Memphis, uses guys from the WWE, uses guys from AEW, uses guys from TNA, use guys all over the place. They're using WWE ID talent. Nick Nemeth was on their show recently. Like,
just out of curiosity, was ID a thing back when this was done?
Yeah, I think ID had just started, but maybe not. Maybe I'm wrong.
I don't know because I certainly would have, if it was existing, I certainly would have stole somebody for that. But it's just, it's like, when's the last time anything truly interesting where talent's concerned has happened?
Well, and I think that's being addressed at Crockett Cup. They're bringing in freaking Natty Neihart, but like, what does that mean that they've been doing this whole entire year? These are things that they could have addressed early on. Calvin Tankman's out there. Oh gosh, there's a whole bunch. Willie Mack will work for anybody. I've seen Willie Mack work for anybody. You telling me Willie Mack wouldn't have got some attention for this tournament? Here's one that you guys might not like that I still think would have been a big, at least, attention getter. Zicky Dice. I know you guys don't like him, but he's got a following out there. Look, to me, that's a bigger get than Zion or Burchill.
Here's the thing. Well, that's where I would go. It's like, it doesn't really matter whether I like Zicky Dice or not. It would have been an interesting thing to have him interjected for a one-time, return. And, they used him, when Mims won the title?
Yeah.
So, it's not been that long, but been long enough that, if you had just said, oh, and Zicky Dice is going to be in it, we don't even know they haven't even released who was in it until the show that is the tournament.
Yeah.
They released a couple of the matches early, but not most of it. And so it's just like, you couldn't have surprised us with just one person. Even if I would have gone, oh God, that's a crap decision, at least it would have been a decision.
Yeah. It would have been a strategic move to do something to move the needle, as opposed to, hey, remember these guys, the ones that you don't care about? Yeah, they're all going to be on this tournament,
Yeah, I'm looking at this going, I want to watch this. Why? Drew Billy better win because he's the only person that 99.743% of the people would care about.
Yep.
And as for those other people, well, they hang out on Discord a lot.
And look, it's fine. It's interesting. I guess Zion and Burchill are going to have a match. Ooh, I guess that'll be fun. The whole tournament was really set up just so that we get Kerry Morton versus Silas Mason. You heard it here first. That's what my decree is. Whether that's going to make for good television or not, I don't know. It sounds like they're going to change the Southern Six or maybe break them up altogether. I don't know. But, just going back to who they could have brought into this thing, right? Like, we didn't even acknowledge that the territory champions could have been involved. We didn't acknowledge, I don't know, maybe your Mid-American champion. Maybe he could have been in that tournament. I don't know. Maybe you could have had PB Smooth. I would rather send PB Smooth than half the guys that are in this tournament.
Well, and then that was my next thing. If you had put in some of the territory guys, it would have been interesting.
It would have been brilliant. Imagine this was built as who's the top guy in the territories. Like, look, Jax Dane was a guy who came from the territories, won the world title. He was built from the ground up. And maybe nobody in the current NWA knows that, right? Maybe they don't understand that or remember that or were ever educated on that. But if you're going to pay homage to a guy who literally got built from the ground up, before he was world champion, he was world tag team champion with Rob Conway. Before he was that, he was a territory champion. And then he won the national title and then the North American title. And everything that made the Dane event great was done in its territories. Why not use this as a moment, an opportunity to pay homage to the territories? This would have been a good time to use Joe Ocasio. This would have been a good time to use Steve Boz. This would have been a good time to bring in Anthony Carmelo. I think that's his name. Now I don't remember. Carmelo, the WLW champion. Maybe this would have been a good time to introduce somebody from NWA Texas that we hadn't seen before. Maybe this would have been the time,
especially since it was in Texas. So why wasn't Bam Bam in there?
Yeah. Okay. Getting back to Power, we get a promo from Kerry Morton, which was just kind of cringeworthy. A lot of that on this episode of Power. Nothing is really said. He's just that Kerry Morton, they ain't build him like that, daddy. And, he's planning for a long run in the tournament.
What the hell was that wink at the they did?
I just said it was very cringeworthy. I can't tell you. It was not an enjoyable moment for me. And I'm somebody that kind of likes Kerry Morton. I think he has a ton of potential.
Weren't they like very close on his face?
Yeah, it was. He looked really tired too, like really tired.
I think they shot it with high definition camera. I was watching it on a 65-inch high definition TV or 4K or whatever. So it's probably filmed in 4K and whatever. And you could see like the makeup blotches on his face.
Yeah.
And that he can't, grow a full beard.
Well, he's still only 23 or 24. He's still a young guy.
Well, I'm just saying that's how close they were on him.
Sure. Yeah.
Real quick, I had a full beard at 13, so I don't want to hear that excuse.
Well, not everyone is as manly as you are, Jaden.
So yeah, it was very bizarre. It was like they were right up on his face. You could see the makeup blotches. You could see the unshaven peach fuzz. You could see it was that wink. It was.
And I will say this: if they end up,
that made me want to take a shower.
If they end up taking Kerry Morton out of the Southern Six, I think Kerry Morton's a better Carson Drake than Carson Drake is.
Almost everybody's a better Carson Drake than Carson Drake is.
I liked Carson Drake better when he was Jordan Clearwater.
Most of us did.
All right, so Morton comes out to the ring. They're now calling him the Ticket, which, I mean, I guess that's an interesting nickname, but he self-professed the Riz God, and even Joe Galley commented on that, and Billy Corgan, I don't think, understands what Riz God means, but that's all right. If I didn't have kids, I probably wouldn't know either. Interestingly enough, there was no Southern Six theme music. It was something kind of different for Kerry even. So it was kind of a weird entrance music for him. Wrecking Ball Legursky, the fans in Alabama love Wrecking Ball Legursky, and what's not to love? Wrecking Ball Legursky loves two things: America and punching people in the face. So of course, the fans in Alabama are going to love Wrecking Ball Legursky. Then Billy admits the way that he seeded the tournament. We already got into that. It's all bullshit. It's dumb. It doesn't make any sense. And again, I question, why did Wrecking Ball Legursky get a seat in the tournament and not Bradley when they're basically the same person? At least in the NWA, there's no really discernible differences between them. They both have had a shot at EC3 World Heavyweight Championship. They both lost that match. They both have not had another singles match one-on-one with anybody else in the NWA except for against EC3 for the title in the last year. So again, didn't make sense. Again, this match wasn't bad, but again, it's like there's an identity crisis within the NWA. I don't really know what they're trying to do. I don't really know what their vision is. Wrecking Ball Legursky has been a heel and a babyface and a heel and a babyface so many times I can't keep up anymore. And on top of that, then you got Kerry Morton, who I don't know what the idea is, what they're going to do with him. The match itself was okay. And as DK says, if you put it in a vacuum, it's a pretty good match. Of course, Legursky's the big guy. Kerry had to sneak a win to get it. Got those knees in on Legursky for the victory, but it just wasn't all that great of a match. And so Morton gets the victory. He advances in the tournament. And again, this episode of Power really didn't hit it for me. DK gave it a B, which is a much better grade than I would have given it. DK, what did you think about that match?
I thought the only thing I didn't like the match, I thought the wrong guy went over. And look, I understand the concept of if they're building towards Thrillbilly Carey needs to win. My thing is, I don't see Carey going over Thrillbilly.
Nope.
And my thing is, you could have built something with Legursky, who is in better shape than he's been in a while.
He did look good.
He's in better shape. He has charisma. He has the ability to get over. And so if you put that in the ring with Thrillbilly, and, you know, Billy seems to like big hoss fights. He seems like big hoss. He doesn't like heel face. He's one of those that believes that's an old, despite the fact every belt he has is a retro belt or based off a retro belt, he seems to think that the idea of heel faces is passe. And as you pointed out, that we don't know who's what half the time. And he also seems to love heel versus heel, because that gives us nobody to cheer for. Do you think it's the drugs or brain damage from drugs?
Well, look, Billy says he's straight edge. Like, I don't know. Maybe he doesn't do drugs.
Maybe he should. That's kind of where I'm. If Billy does not do drugs, Billy should do drugs, because then maybe things would be better.
Yeah, I mean,
at least pot. You know, maybe let that chip on his shoulder shrink a little bit.
Yeah.
There are times that it does. I feel like in some ways there's a power struggle, in that Billy's determined to do things differently because he's a different person and he does things differently, you know. And that bullshit about how his music, you know, nobody told me I was going to be successful. You know, well, okay, who, what, whatever. We'll go with it. But yeah, it was just not my thing. I mean, I gave it a B because I thought most of the wrestling in the ring was okay, except for I thought Carino and Adonis was just slow. By the way, I also think Carino looks like, since he's bleached his hair like that it's got lots of frizz and damage to it. He should shave his head and grow back some real hair. Obviously, he's not using the same bleach that Ric Flair and others have used in the past.
Go ahead.
No, just, I mean, wrap up a thought on Power. If you just focused on the in-ring work, it was probably a B show. There was nothing exceptional about it, but there wasn't anything really bad about it either. If you don't consider the skits, which it's hard for me to consider since they just drained the whole soul out of me. If you consider the skits, I like the concept. I do not like the execution. So we'll say that. So from whoever on the NWA they have spying on us this week, concept good, execution suck big hairy balls.
Real quick, are they skits or are they vignettes?
I guess you could call them vignettes.
I mean, to me, it's like a skit. I would have saw it as something in, you know, Saturday Night Live when they're especially bad. A little skit that may or may not be linked to anything you care about.
Yeah. And again, Rosville, our pal, who you guys could see, he's got a rotating schedule of his live streams. Maybe they're not live. Maybe they're just podcasts. I don't know. But I do check him out. And Roswell has some good stuff. He does a lot of interesting deep dives and what's happening in Portland, but also the NWA, and even calling out NWA or new NWA talents for talking shit on message boards. But he said that he felt different about the episode, and he, like you, agreed that the action was solid, but the theatrics ran a little long with bad acting. And Luthes says shitty community theater, and I don't know if we ever talked about that on this show, but I believe that's what Nick Aldis called the primetime live specials were shitty community theater. And what's funny to me about that is overall presentation of the show. If you guys, when Hollywood makes its way back onto YouTube, when you guys watch that, I think you're going to enjoy the product. And it is an exciting product with new faces and names that you're familiar with, blended with talent from all over the country. And it feels exciting to watch, and it's explosive, and it's not boring. And the storylines aren't really existent because they hadn't been on TV for a while. I'm sure that'll come into play as we get more into the new season. But go watch when it comes out, probably next week, maybe the week after, whatever Power is that week in versus United Wrestling Network, and tell me which show is better. And I'll eat my hat if you say it's Power. That takes us to the last segment of the night. Aaron Stevens declares himself the next opponent for the 10 pounds of gold, really doing a deep dive on the psyche of Tom Latimer, and he knows that he's still battling demons, blah, blah, blah. This was some weird shit, and this was avant-garde for the sake of being stupid as fuck. They've got Eric Smalls, who has been feuding with Aaron Stevens, dressed up like Aaron Stevens and dancing to us as a snake while Stevens is playing a flute. Then you have Sam Stackhouse and Eric Smalls wearing the blunt force trauma mask. And I beg the question, who the fuck is this for? Who enjoys this kind of shit? Because honestly, it's not this guy. And I am actually excited about seeing Aaron Stevens return to the ring. I want to see how much rust he has. I want to see if he's able to still go. And when Aaron Stevens did wrestle, he was pretty good. Was he great? No. But he's had some solid matches. So a match with Stevens and Tom Latimer, number one, it's not EC3. Number two, it's not some chicken shit that they dragged in off the street. But this did not make me want to see that match. This did not propel me to say, yes, I want to see this matchup. It made me want to churn off the X as fast as I could. Luthes called it the David Lynch Memorial Tribute, and maybe that's what it was. And I know he passed away recently, but to me, this was the kind of bullshit that makes people not want to watch wrestling. This kind of stuff makes me embarrassed to be a wrestling fan. How do I explain that to somebody who's just turning on the TV for the first time, watching an NWA show? They're going to be like, what the shit is this? What is this? This is what you watch? This is what you spend 3 hours a week talking about? That you subtract yourself from dinner with your family? That you can't pick up your kids from school for this? Jesus Christ. Makes me look like an asshole. You guys feel free to add in anything you want.
It was bad.
Look, I'm saying that in the vacuum, those matches, whether you liked them or not, really irrelevant. Were they action? Yes. Was it? Did it tell a story? Yes. Did it have a completion? Did it advance storylines? All of these things are yes. The skits within the show, I was fine with. I don't think they were particularly great. I don't think they were as bad as DK thought. But the Aaron Stevens stuff was just over the top for I don't know what reason. I don't know who Billy was trying to impress. I don't know who Aaron Stevens was trying to impress. But this is the kind of stuff that makes me want to turn off the TV and not watch NWA.
Well, that's it. The end stuff convinced me that somebody smokes weed.
Yeah, well, it could be Stevens.
I don't. Yeah, I was gonna say I don't know who or who, what, when, where, why, or anything like that. But the entire Aaron Stevens, unlike the skits, which just left me feel nothing, the Aaron Stevens segments, both of them actually just left me feeling this is really, really, really bad. Bad. Incredibly bad. Hey, I do want to cover a couple of quick things here.
Yeah.
There is just nothing that gives me any excitement in the NWA right now. I mean, they haven't talked about signing talent in ages. They're using tired acts just for, I mean, I don't know. They're kissing Billy's ass, something. Scion, I don't know why Scion's still there. Let him take his mask off and go back to doing something else. Both Scion and Zion were terrible choices for masked wrestlers. Mondo and Burchill was bad, but at least there was something there. But it was like, didn't care. I mean, is there anything that you just go, oh, I can't wait? I mean, Natalya coming, but what does that really mean? What's it really going to hold? Is it just her? Is it a one-off? Is it multi? Does it matter? I mean, that's my biggest problem with the idea of Natalya right now. It's just kind of like, so okay, she comes in. Is she actually going to wrestle?
Oh yeah, for sure she's going to wrestle.
I mean, it's been stated absolutely she's wrestling.
Yes.
Okay. So, hopefully put her in a match with Kenzie Page and let Kenzie get over.
Yeah, I think that they're going to, I think they're going to put her in a match for the Burke. I think that's probably the best thing to do with her. I might be in the minority. Even a short run with the Burke, I think, would help the NWA in the long run. But there's two things I want to do before we call it a night. Obviously, Exodus Pro is running, well, first and foremost, Crossfire is running an event tomorrow night on the 14th. We're going to try to get that poster and information up on the alliance.com website, alliance-wrestling.com. But there is an Exodus Pro event that I believe is going to be airing on YouTube on this Saturday, March 15th. There won't be a watch along because Jay's going to be at another event, but I do want to give way to that and talk about it a little bit. Of course, there'll be the NWA Exodus Pro tag team titles will be on the line with the Major League taking on TME versus the Alienated Youth. The match that, I'll get to that one in a minute. Then you've also got Sam Beal versus Hayden Backlund and Handsome Harley. I guess that's some sort of triple threat match. I don't know what the heck that is. I don't even know. Or maybe that's a tag team match. I don't know. That's Man Bun Jesus and Sam Beal. Okay. All right. That's a weird name for them. You've got Lord Crew taking on Aaron Stevens, and the Slime Balls will be tied together. So it's a it's a 1-on-3 match, but the Slime Balls will be tied together. I don't really know. Again, Exodus Pro is kind of out there sometimes. This should be a fun match. Tiffany Nieves versus Lily Ruiz, La Pescadita versus La Princesa. The Exodus Pro Women's Championship will be on the line. I think this will be a match that I definitely want to see. Is Pretty Boy Smooth taking on Calvin Tankman. I think that should be a very hard hitting match. I believe there's also an Exodus Pro NWA Midwest title match with Dante Casanova defending his title. I just don't know against who. And then, of course, the final Flowers match between EC3 and Richard Holiday. I believe this will be the ending of that storyline that they've been building up in Exodus Pro for quite some time. Graduate this guy to the power roster. Let's put him in the tournament. I don't know what's going on in Exodus Pro, but it looks very interesting. Our boy Vincent, we haven't seen you in a while, Vincent. Vincent says WWE should send down R-Truth for a run. They had a young guy they were trying to put over. Imagine R-Truth in the NWA today. I would be okay with that. He's a former 2-time NWA World Heavyweight Champion, and I think a tag team champion too. So I mean that's it for Exodus Pro. Again, that's happening Saturday. Crossfire has a show on Friday, and then of course for those of you who are watching the pay-per-view, Tom Latimer defends the 10 pounds of gold against Bishop Dyer in Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling. I believe Tom will also be at the event the following night in a tag team match. So that's kind of it for the NWA portion of this podcast. I know that we're going to do some talking about Dangerous Degenerate Wrestling Gladiators. So, Jaden, why don't you fill us in with the deets as they're happening at Dog?
So this Saturday, Dog's going to be at the Nerd Force Fan Fest. We're going to have a table involved. And we're going to be shooting some stuff there too. It should be on the YouTube page, things that are going around. We have the 17th of April. It is the Raw Soulmania at Rowan University. Donovan Dijak will be there. David Goldie, the World Wrestling Grand Prix champion, will be there. Breaker Brant, the Dog champion. Wrecking Ball Ligursky, Notorious Mimi, Valerie Verman, the World Wrestling Grand Prix women's champion. Tank Tolan's going to be there. A Conquistador. Really good card, top to bottom. And Daredevil Dave Dahl will be there too, teaming up with Dylan Mesh. And I always feel bad for Dylan because he gets the short end of the straw. Tyson Maddox will be there. But it'll be a really good card. Then you got the 19th at the South Jersey Geek Fest. That's going to be random matches going out throughout the entire time. Whoever's champion might be there defending. You never know. But it's going to be matches going from pretty much the entire time. We're going to try to get like 5 hours, 6 hours, 7 hours of wrestling going on. So be prepared to see lots of wrestling, hopefully. And it's part of the Comic-Con of the South Jersey Geek Fest, the convention. So get your tickets, get a bunch of stuff, get a lightsaber, get a Superman t-shirt, and then watch Dog Pro Wrestling. After that, there is Pause for the Cause. That is June 6th. That's going to be pretty cool because that's something we've done in the past for a good event and charity. It's going to be a free event for part of Pause of the Cause, so you get some free dog wrestling on there. Then you got the event at the Sacred Heart Church on June 28th. Currently signed as DGAT bundles from OVW, and there'll be a bunch of other wrestling stars there too. So we know more what's going on after some of the upper events because we know who champions are and what matches are going to be signed. Stay tuned to the Dog website for that. Then in July 23rd to July 27th, the Monmouth Park County Park Fair. There's going to be various matches going on throughout there too. They're working on some big names. It's going to be really cool. It's going to be 5 days of wrestling action throughout the entire park. I don't know if you've been to the Monmouth Park Fair, but there's between 90 and 120,000 people go through there every year. There's going to be an American Idol singer. I wish I knew anything about American Idol to tell you who it is. But there's pig races, so maybe Daredevil Dave Dahl could do something besides wrestling, and hopefully he lands into the pig pens because I want to see that. And there's going to be food and amusement park rides and a bunch of cool stuff, so you get to have a whole night of family action. And if you make sure you're there all 5 days. And I think that's everything. I wish I had the thing in front of me, but that's everything I believe in. That's pretty cool with Dog Pro Wrestling. Make sure you check out all that's happening on our YouTube page. There's some matches on there. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and share, especially watching Connor getting squashed by Falaba. Make sure you share that too. And buy the shirts if we had any for sale.
Do you have dog shirts for sale?
There is on the page for what's that place called? Prime? Amazon, I think, has one.
Yeah, okay.
We're working on it right now. Actually, I'm hoping the debut of the dog tablecloth will show up so we can have that for the comic convention, and hopefully at the same time the new dog ring apron shows up, so that'll be kind of cool. But there is some stuff in the plans. It's just with all these events coming up, Dr. Zirconium has some other stuff he's working on too. I can't even go into, but there's a lot coming up, and hopefully that we'll be hearing from, and we'll have lots of information. You'll hear it here first.
We love being the home for all the news and information for Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators. Roswell says, I'm following Dog on YouTube and IG.
By the way, Roswell, I'm sure Doug wants to look for places soon to start doing promoting for some stuff. So make sure to keep in touch, because we like to have one of our representatives, probably me, do some stuff on your podcast and other podcasts too. And of course, we're working on trying to get some things to promote the upcoming events soon here on the Alliance Guys podcast and the Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators affiliation with J-Cal is strong. In fact, not Kevin Owens was doing a little vignette real quick. If you watch the Dog YouTube page, you'll see that he puts over the Dog YouTube page. So, so obviously the relationship is going strong, and hopefully we'll see some stuff going on.
Yeah, we are friends of Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators. We are friends of IHWE, the Iconic Heroes of Wrestling Elite Entertainment. What's the E stand for?
What was the title we had?
I don't remember. You're asking me. It's too late in the day for me to have a memory right now.
Excellence.
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 All right, well, we'll have to get that written down somewhere.
Is Terry Taylor going to wrestle for the Excellence title?
Oh, my God.
Maybe.
Shit.
He's pure poultry emotion.
That is true.
Yeah.
Good night, everybody.
Emotion.
All right, that's going to do it for us. I just saw that there's another match announced for Hard Times, and I don't have the energy to get to it. So we're going to call it a night. Thank you guys so much for watching. We'll be back on Tuesday with the pre-party. I'm hoping the other Alliance guys will be back on Sunday, but they've been having some terrible luck getting to the podcasting studio. So that's a maybe for them, but I'll definitely be here on Tuesday. And, of course, next Wednesday, we'll be live on Twitch and Twitch only as I interview referee Jared Fritz. So that'll be fun.
What's Twitch?
What's that?
What's Twitch?
Twitch.
That's what happens every time I listen to you guys describe Billy Corgan's booking. I start twitching.
Twitch.tv / The Alliance Blog. We're on all social medias at The Alliance Blog. If you don't believe me, just go look. Go look. Until next time, we'll see you at the matches, brother.
Thanks for joining the stream. This has been a presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com. We genuinely appreciate your support. Would you consider subscribing so you'll never miss a future episode? I'd also like to remind you we do a live stream every Tuesday at 5 p.m. before NWA Power. You can find us on social media at The Alliance Blog. And until next time, we are The Alliance.